Welcome back to anatomy. We are going now with the back, which includes the bony spine and the muscles located at that region. First, we will review general characteristics and functions of the back. Here you have the objectives of the lecture. The back, and especially the spine, is of paramount importance to chiropractors, and you need to know well its anatomy to understand its proper function. Only if you know the anatomy, the function, and the possible dysfunctions, you may understand how to address problems and become competent and safe chiropractors. As primary function, the back is the musculoskeletal axis of the body and supports the trunk. It is made of vertebra, the proximal ends of the ribs, the superior part of the pelvis, and the posterior and inferior part of the skull. Muscles and ligaments connect all these bony components. As you know, the spine contains also the spinal cord and the proximal part of spinal nerves through which information inputs and outputs travel. Okay, but the back is not rigid. On the contrary, it allows complex movements. Movement is possible thanks to muscles that contract, and we distinguish two big groups of muscles at the back. The extrinsic muscles are at the back but are used to move the upper limbs, while the intrinsic muscles located deeper maintain the posture and move the spine itself. Another important function of the spine is to protect the spinal cord, which is part of the central nervous system, and the proximal part of the spinal nerves that are part of the peripheral nervous system. Here you have an image of a dissection. You can see the neck and the beginning of the back, and they have removed the membranes that protect the spinal cord and also the posterior part of the vertebrae, and you can see the spinal cord, and if you look, there are like small strings, moving to the sides. Those are the spinal nerves, or the roots, because the spinal nerve forms a bit later. Okay, let's see all the different components of the spine. Let's start first by defining the basic features of a vertebra. To do so, the first thoracic vertebra traditionally is used as a standard to describe the common characteristics of most of the vertebra. The left image is a superior view of vertebra, and the right image is a lateral view. We can see here the body of the vertebra that articulates with the superior and inferior vertebra by means of an intervertebral disc. Structurally, this is a symphysis. If you remember, there is no synovial capsule and has little movement, so it is an amphiarthrosis. If the back has a wide range of motion, it's because the individual movements of every symphysis can be added together and produce those movements. Posterior to the body, we find the foramen vertebrale, where the spinal cord is located. This foramen is surrounded by a vertebral arch. It didn't go away. Here, the vertebral arch, the attachment of that arch to the body is called the pediculus, and the posterolateral parts which are here. These are called the lamina. Then protruding laterally, we can see two transverse processes, and protruding posteriorly, we have the spinous processes in the superior view and the lateral view. Also, protruding upwards and downwards, we have four processus articularis with an articular facet, each of them, to form the zygapophyseal joint, which they articulate with the vertebra just above and just below. These are synovial joints, so they have a capsule which is vascularized and innervated, and that means that they can get inflamed and can produce pain. The body of the vertebra also has a pair of superior articular facets and a pair of inferior articular facets for the ribs. The ribs articulate anteriorly with the sternum and form the thoracic cage. And finally, we have the transverse processes that also have articular facets for the heads of the ribs. Okay, so here you have two thoracic vertebrae where we can see the joints among the bodies, although the disc is missing, and the zygapophyseal joints at the back with the capsule here is also missing. Between the pediculus of two articulated vertebrae, we can find the foramen intervertebrale for the passage of the corresponding spinal nerve. As said before, this foramen can get narrowed by inflammation, so the nerve gets affected, so it can cause pain. Alright, so now you know the major characteristics of a vertebra, but have in mind that all vertebrae have different characteristics, and we will review them in detail so you know them well. Those differential characteristics allow us to make up three groups of vertebrae. As I said before, we'll see the details, but for now let's state that we have 7 cervical vertebrae, 12 thoracic, and 5 lumbar. The last lumbar vertebra is also called L5, articulates with a big bone, which is called the sacrum, and this bone is made up of 5 fused vertebrae. In turn, the sacrum inferiorly articulates with a tiny bone. It's called the coccyx, and this one is also made by the merging of 3 to 4 vertebrae. In order to move, the vertebrae must articulate with each other. As said before, we can find 2 types of joints among the vertebrae. We have the intervertebral disc, which is located there, between all the vertebral bodies except between the first and the second cervical vertebrae, so C1 and C2. You'll see that the articulation between these 2 vertebrae is very particular. And then we have the zygapophyseal joints right there in the circle, located posteriorly among the articular processes. Okay, so now we know that the spine supports the body weight, allows movements and locomotion, and protects part of the central and peripheral nervous system. Okay, so let's go on.